4 years ago, I met a new friend who said no matter what she ate, she couldn't keep her weight off. I just recently spoke to her about 2 weeks ago, and she has lost 30 pounds, kept it off, is now more mobile, her brain fog lifted, she got herself a whole new wardrobe, and she said that the best part about this weight loss journey is that she didn't have to use any weight loss drugs. And in fact, she got off many of her diabetes drugs and blood pressure medicines with the blessing of her doctors, and she's even regained some of their feelings in her toes. So hi friends, I'm Dr. Lou, and I'm a double-boarded physician practicing for nearly 30 years. And this topic about weight loss is personal to me because I know what it feels like to be addicted to food, because I was that person. I was the largest person in my elementary school class. I literally wore a jacket every single day of school because I was embarrassed to go to school with short sleeves. Now, being overweight just simply meant that my metabolism and immunity was shot. Now I know I probably had fatty liver, visceral fat, insulin resistance, and I simply lacked the motivation to move. You can't get overweight unless you're eating more calories than your body's using.
Really, one of the biggest problems with my patients is that they eat really big portions.
So you either have to increase your movement, which is really hard to do to lose calories, or you reduce your calories. But counting calories doesn't work. I've done that. I've counted my share of calories. I've counted my macros, my protein, carbs, and fat, but I couldn't keep the weight off until I discovered this food. And that's because before I ate this, I was eating the wrong foods. Let me show you what I mean. I have here a chocolate chip cookie that's roughly about 300 calories. And to meet my daily caloric needs as a growing teenager, I probably at most needed about 2,000 calories, probably less because I wasn't that active. Now, if I ate 300 calories in a cookie, well, how many cookies do you think that I could eat in one setting, right? I probably could eat 4 of these very easily. That's like 1,200 calories already. And I would only have 800 calories left of whole foods for me to eat. Now, that doesn't sound like I'm going to get full eating just 800 calories, because I'm not. And it's been proven when you eat foods like this, not necessarily sugary foods, but foods that are ultra processed, you end up eating more food simply because this stuff doesn't keep you full.
If people believe eating less of it, view dieting as a deprivation system.
But it actually goes beyond just not being full. I don't think people understand that when we eat this kind of food, there's literally like a gravitational pull for my brain to go seek this food. I mean, literally, once I start eating cookies or any other sweets or this kind of like texture, like the soft bread texture, I simply just want to eat more. And it's not because I'm not full. It's because like there's this food noise that keeps me thinking about these kind of foods. And it could be a cookie or a donut or a granola bar. It could be a box of cereal. Like there's something about these ultra processed foods, what I call Frankenstein formulated fabrications of foods, that just calls to me, and my brain can't help but go seek this out. So eating one cookie is probably not going to do a whole lot to negatively affect my health if I just ate this one cookie once in a while. But the thing is, when you give yourself permission to eat foods like this, it's like giving a smoker permission to smoke cigarettes. Are they really just going to smoke one cigarette? And that's what food scientists, nutritionists, these so-called experts, they don't understand, that it's really not a matter of not eating so much. It's a matter of turning off that energy, that gravitational pull that keeps me seeking this type of food. And until I learned to turn that off, I couldn't get the weight off. And that's why calorie counting doesn't work. I mean, when you're eating your cookies to fill you up, it's not going to turn out well, right? And nobody just eats a few cookies. We're eating cookies, cakes, chips, other junky foods, and we're looking for substitutes like sugar substitutes in cookies to allow us to eat this texture. It's simply nutrient deficient. I mean, when a food just has sugar, starch, and fat, it's nutrient deficient because your body needs at least 40 essential nutrients, not counting all the other nutrients and antioxidants. And altogether, you roughly need at least 100 different ingredients. And we're getting what, like 3 or 4 in a cookie, even though it has some chocolate. Do you see how far off I was with getting healthy? Because you don't get healthy on this kind of stuff. I mean, everybody knows that. I was simply eating calories and satisfying this food noise that I was trying to figure out how to turn off. And until you turn that off, you can't lose the weight. This is what I should have been eating before I ate the cookies though, because what's in here actually helped me give up these kinds of foods. And if you've ever been addicted to processed foods, this is processed, but this is really processed, ultra processed from the ingredients. They take over your brain. And once you bite into this, you continuously spike these neurotransmitters called dopamine so that it messes up your hormones and all you want to do is seek cookies or cookie-like foods. I literally can eat a whole box of cookies by myself. And saddest part is I didn't really even feel good or enjoy the taste of it. But somehow I still ate it. And the next day, if you showed me cookies, I would have eaten those too. And that's a food noise that people are describing when they get rid of it on GLP-1 agonists. And I admit these medicines, they help people give up these bad foods. But the problem is that we're not addressing the root cause of why we're even addicted to this food in the first place. I mean, why are we putting a Band-Aid on, artificially giving our bodies a hormone called GLP-1 agonist when we make it ourselves if we just eat the right foods? And I admit it works. People are losing weight, reversing their diabetes. They're losing obesity, reducing their fat, and it's overall making the big food companies lose market share. But I also know plenty of people who haven't really changed what they're eating. They're just eating less of it. And unless you change your food quality and start eating these kinds of foods, eating less cookies is actually not going to improve your health. In fact, you're going to be so protein and nutrient deficient that you're going to have other health problems. And you're going to be dependent upon GLP-1 agonists to keep your weight loss off forever. But that's not going to happen because it's eventually going to fail. That's how the body works. The body is always smarter than whatever we make up as humans to try to fix it. And by the way, if you find values in my videos, would you mind checking if you're subscribed? And if you are not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button, like button, and share button because it does change how many people get to watch my videos. I appreciate your partnership in helping to change the world. At one point I was counting my calories because I wanted to eat these cookies. And I was afraid to eat these whole foods because it's full of carbs too. I mean, obviously, doesn't this look like carbs? I guess it could look like other mush too. And I was told eating carbs made you fatter. This whole carbohydrate landscape is so confusing. Why are these carbs better for us and these carbs bad for us, right? I mean, yeah, these are Frankenstein formulated fake foods made out of ultra processed sugar, starches, and fat. But isn't there sugar, starch, and fat in these foods? This was actually a whole food. But the thing with a whole food is there's actually still a food matrix, even though it got blended up. And there's more than just macronutrients. There's more than just sugar, fat, and carbs. And it's other stuff that we can't measure that don't give us calories, but give us so much health benefits that can help people lose weight. And we've had food scientists formulate these things, but a food scientist can't make this whole food. They just simply can't. Chemicals put this together. This was done by nature. And this is what we really should all be eating. Because once you eat this, you can't eat too much of this. I hope none of you feel bad about this food landscape and your journey because I know it's confusing. I've been just as confused. I mean, how can you blame any of us? We were all raised with processed foods, right? I grew up with corded dial phones. There's no cell phones, no internet. My nutrition education were TV commercials from these companies.
What's this stuff? Some cereal. It's supposed to be good for you.
Or the back of food packages or magazines that were at the checkout stand. And we went to the library every week, but I didn't see any nutrition stuff except for the same magazines that were in the supermarket. And honestly, even after medical school, I didn't put 2 to 2 together until one day I got gestational diabetes. And as a young doctor in fellowship, that was eye-opening because I thought I was immune to it. I was so much healthier. That's what I thought, but I really wasn't. And then I got shingles soon after that, straight down my forehead, like Mikhail Gorbachev. That was in my late 20s. And then soon after that, I got a total body hives. I mean, talk about my body giving me clues that my immunity was in the toilet. So finally, I realized that I got to stop listening to bad nutrition advice and go back to listening to my parents, who were actually the true nutritionists. I just didn't appreciate it growing up. Honestly, I thought I knew better because I spoke better English than my mom. I went to college. I had a medical degree and I spent like 5 years in medical training after that. Yeah, but she was the one who was able to raise 3 kids and keep us healthy out of the hospital. And it finally dawned on me that I've confused nutrients with whole food.
You point your camera app to this QR code. It'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you.
Now, here's what I mean. I got gestational diabetes because my blood sugars were too high. My hemoglobin A1C, I think when they measured it, was over 6. I have here 5 liters of red water that represents all the liters of blood in your body. And here, I have some sugar. 1 sugar cube is a teaspoon of sugar. This 1 sugar cube is the amount of sugar that should be in your blood, no more than this 1 teaspoon at any given time in your bloodstream. Can you believe that? You have 5 liters. It's not 1 per jar, folks. It's 1 teaspoon of sugar, which is represented in this sugar cube, in all 5 liters. That's how much sugar we have at any given time, because if we didn't have it, a lot of metabolism wouldn't happen and we would pass out. Now, I'm sure you would all agree that 1 sugar cube is not much sugar, right? And if you measure your hemoglobin A1C, which is how much sugar you have in your blood in the last 3 months, it would be about 4.5 to 4.8. That's a reflection of basically how much sugar is coating your red blood cells. And are you going to have sugar spikes after you eat? Absolutely. Soccer players have sugar spikes even when they don't eat. They spike in the 200s. But are they kicking the bucket because of it? No. Do they have diabetes because of it? No. Because it's not the sugar spikes that's a problem, folks. It's a prolonged sugar that's abnormal when we overwhelm our system with sugar, okay? So let's say you're going to eat this cookie. How much sugar are you really eating? Well, a simple cookie generally has, this little cookie probably has about 10 teaspoons of sugar, okay? So let's collect 10 teaspoons of sugar and see what that looks like. All right, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, 10. Don't forget, you still have your original 1 teaspoon of sugar. So now we're saturating our blood. You're basically thickening up your blood, right? And you're making it stickier because you're putting more sugar in it. But when you eat this sugar cookie, right? Because it is chocolate chip cookie or whatever cookie, you're not just eating sugar, but you're also eating white flour or starch. And when you eat starch, it actually turns into sugar quite quickly. So this cookie, the starch in this cookie probably is another 20 teaspoons of sugar. So let me count that. Let's see, 1, 2, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So do you see the problem now? When you eat highly refined foods with sugar and then with starch, you basically are overwhelming your blood with pure sugar. And I think we all agree that this is not 1 teaspoon of sugar that we should be having, right? And this is why we're gaining weight, because when you eat so much sugar, along with the fat in this, okay? Because when you eat carbohydrates, if you eat it with fat, your insulin goes higher than if you just ate the sugar by itself. But this doesn't taste very good, does it? There's no addiction to just pure sugar. I don't know anybody who just enjoys just pure sugar. They usually enjoy it in a form of some kind of texture, some kind of carrier. So you're carrying, the starch is carrying the sugar, right? Because the starch by itself you won't like either, right? If you just added water to flour, that's going to be hard as a rock. You're not going to enjoy that texture. But if we put some fat in it, it's either crumbly or creamy. Then you're going to enjoy that texture with some flavoring. And then we add the sugar. This is what's ruining our metabolism and giving us that noise. And telling a person who has a food addict, which is most of us, to just limit our calories, that one cookie is okay, is really like telling a cigarette addict, just go ahead, smoke. Just smoke that one cigarette. It's okay. You got, 11 others in your pack? Does that even sound logical if you want the person to quit? No, it's not logical. And that is why I was struggling to give this up. Because it's not just cookies that has sugar. If you read the back of your bottles, your sauces, I was trying to eat healthy yogurts. Have you read the back of yogurts? Any kind of flavored yogurt has sugar in it. What about breads? Have you read the back of breads? Most of these soft breads have sugar in it. Like, we've pretty much sugarified and flavored and added fat to most of what we love to eat that's highly processed. And that's why we keep gravitating towards it. And until we understand that sugar, folks, does this look like food to you? This is a chemical, pure chemical, and in a square shape, but nevertheless, a purified chemical that we have confused with food. And as a result, this is messing with our hormones, right? And we're getting higher insulin spikes to then make us collect all this a lot faster so that we never get unstuck. We're stuck in a loop. And unfortunately, when you pour all this starch and the sugar in the water, you're going to turn the water cloudy. It's going to get thicker, stickier. It's going to coagulate, cause blockages easier. It's going to precipitate, cause plaques. And it's just basically going to block your arteries and suppress your immune system. This is kind of why our metabolism and immunity is going down the toilet. So the number one thing that I did was I stopped eating foods with sugar. This is why it's important to stop sugar, because it will keep the noise going if you don't stop it. And I gave it up immediately. But the second part is that I realized that other things can become straight up sugar, right? So I had mentioned these refined carbohydrates, white foods, white bread, white rice, white pasta, white potatoes. These starches, I had to give up too. And I believe that just giving up these categories of food, the refined starch and sugars, corrected my gestational diabetes so I didn't have to take insulin. That was my motivation. I was not going to subject my kid to more medication, or any medication for that matter. And I ended up having a healthy 6-pound, 2-ounce baby over 20 years ago. And at the time, I did such a good job when I was pregnant that I lost 30 pounds. Can you believe that? That I lost that much weight because I gained a ton of weight during the first trimester when my baby barely weighed anything. I was eating too many fat-enriched carbohydrates, and I thought I could double my calories because I was eating for 2. Yeah, it doesn't work like that, folks. That's just not true, especially in the first trimester. But it's mostly my food quality. And, honestly, when I got gestational diabetes, I was pretty bummed out. But it was actually a blessing in disguise for me. It was a wake-up call to change my lifestyle and to rethink what I was doing in life. Really, how I grew up literally represents a transition of our modern day food culture. If you had visited my house as a kid, you would have think I lived in 2 alternative universes. On one side of my house was filled with whole fresh foods, garden fresh herbs, greens, vegetables, fruits. We had literally 20 pomegranate trees in my backyard before I ever saw one in the supermarket. And my parents, they would tell me all about the herbs and the fruits and this and that benefit. But, being a self-centered, stuck-up teenage kid, whatever they told me, I thought, yeah, whatever. They're just in their old school ways. So I never really appreciated all this knowledge that they kept teaching me, but I was listening even though I wasn't actually listening. I know it's such a shame. But if you open my mom's cupboards, you would have seen piles of boxed shelf-stable foods. Literally, it would spill out of the cupboards if you opened the door too wide. And we would have bags of Halloween candies. She would get them on sale. Boxes of cereal, because I love getting that toy at the end of the box. And the newest cookies and desserts in the coupon section of the LA Times. Yep, I was a designated coupon collector. And my mom, she loved those double coupons. And that, folks, is how I got hooked on ultra-processed foods. Nobody addicted to food is eating pounds and pounds of lettuce and berries, folks. They're eating basically this stuff. It's all factory fabricated formulations, Frankenstein creations that really have hijacked our hormones, our metabolisms, and our thoughts. And to think that a drug is going to cure us from all this is leading us down to the wrong rabbit hole of more drugs. Because ultimately, we know how the story will end. You're either going to get side effects or your body's going to get tolerant. And then you're going to need more drugs. That's usually how all drugs work. So the question is, why would my parents buy such obviously blatant, unhealthy foods? Well, it's not so obvious, folks, because on the back of the package, they'll make it seem healthy. They'll make it all plant-based. I mean, technically, wheat flour, which is this stuff, corn flour, rice flour, these are all plant-based. But the problem is they're not whole foods. Whole wheat is normally a yellow color. When you're eating white bread, that's not yellow, folks. It's missing nutrients because it's not the same color, right? The seed was not originally white. The same problem goes with white rice, folks. White is not the original color of the rice. It's missing nutrients. And society has already paid the price of these nutrient deficiencies when people were like eating a plethora of these foods, right? We haven't learned anything from it. All we did was fortify it with vitamins and we solved a lot of nutritional problems. Yeah, did we? These are incomplete foods. They taste good, but they're missing vital components that is in whole food. You can't grow rice from white rice, and you can't put back bread flour to grow a wheat berry, right? That's because these advancements in nutrition from nutrition science, from the study of nutrition, well, my parents were fooled just like most people around the world. They thought Western science knew much more than their own culture. And now we realize that's not true. I mean, when your own scientists, including physicians, are getting obese and diabetes and heart disease, and they're struggling with their own health, I don't care if you have an MD, PhD, or whatever degrees you have behind your name, you drank the Kool-Aid, and you're a part of this grandiose science experiment. I literally got off the Kool-Aid wagon, and I refuse to eat foods that are like this. Just basically chemicals put together, whether it's a gummy bear or bread or white rice, right? I mean, let's face it, nobody just eats one gummy bear. Yeah. If you have this food noise, this addiction, you go from one gummy bear to eating the whole bag of gummy bears, and then you're buying extra bags to store it just in case you run out. Yeah, I've been there. You stockpile your house as if you're a prepper, right? But you're prepping for that's never going to come. You're always going to have food. And that's the problem. Once you start even taking a bite, this food noise keeps coming back. And people who think that one diet drink isn't going to make or break your diet, they don't realize that it's the food addiction that once you introduce a little bit, like cigarettes, you get addicted and all you want is more. And that's the part that nutrition experts and scientists that they don't realize because they've never experienced this food noise. You don't have to be obese or overweight to have food noise. I've had those food noises even looking like this. By the grace of God, I figured this out as a teenager. And I still struggled for a couple of decades after that to try to kick the addiction. I did go from a size 14 to a size 8 in one summer as a teenager, mostly eating fresh greens and fruit. So I basically ate low calories. And that's why when you start all your meals with low calorie, fresh foods, you'll be more successful in losing your weight. But it's not like you ate that and now you're going to lose weight going forward. No, you have to keep eating like that. It becomes a lifestyle. It's not a diet, folks. And it really needs to be done before every meal. Not only because it's the hardest thing to eat, but it's also because it protects your metabolism from everything else that you want to eat. It's a lifestyle, and it's become part of just my daily lifestyle. No brainer, I do that first. I fill my bucket up with fresh fruits and vegetables, and then I eat what I want to eat. Now, I also eat these beans. Yeah, these are beans, kind of looks like it. These are like refried beans. And I will add beans to my salad to keep me full. And I did that as a teenager because realistically speaking, I'm not an elephant. I can't eat 50 pounds of leaves a day and actually grow from that. I also knew that my mom's cupboard was going to make me fat again. But I read a glass can of beans. They do sell beans in glass, especially before. And I realized it had a lot of protein and it had a lot of fiber. But beans have more than that. It has vitamins and minerals essential for cellular repair and metabolism, like zinc and magnesium. But unfortunately, my diet didn't always continue, or I should say my lifestyle, because my friends, they weren't playing the same game. They would eat refined processed stuff in front of me, like pizzas and hamburgers and desserts. I mean, heck, I lived in the school dorms for 3 years in college where they had all-you-can-eat ice cream bar. I mean, when you're shipping sauces and processed foods from a box from California to out of state, you're addicted to food. So this food noise would make me yo-yo up and down, gaining weight, losing weight. And it didn't stop until one day, I wised up and I realized that food was actually shaving my immunity and longevity. And I began to wean myself off of this food noise. And you know how I did that? Well, before I ever ate this, even for snacks, because I would eat this separately just to enjoy it, I would make myself eat fruits and vegetables before I ate any junk food. And just by doing that, it changed the amount of dopamine I was getting from these processed food spikes. Fresh vegetables and fruits, they actually dampen the dopamine that keeps the noise on hyperdrive. And ultimately, that helped me to titrate down on my ultra-processed foods. And during that whole time, I was supplementing my diet with nutrients. My waistline stopped ballooning. My hemoglobin A1C dropped. My insulin dropped. My cholesterol was actually enviable. I had more energy, no brain fog. I feel better than I ever did in college. And I think the key component is that I went back to my parents' diet, and instead of looking for nutrients and counting calories like the American way, I just went back to eating what they used to eat in the old country. And when I did that, I got a diversity of micronutrients. I was also getting a food matrix wrapped in whole food fiber. Fiber slows down the rate of digestion, and it also activates my gut microbiome. It reduces inflammation to optimize my immune system. It reduces the addiction of whole foods because when you eat fiber, you're actually releasing your own GLP-1 to signal to your body you're full, that you don't need that stuff. Whole plants, they don't work like a prescription drug. These natural GLP-1 systems, it wasn't invented by pharmaceutical companies. Your digestive tract already makes these signals. And when you eat fermentable fiber, it helps activate the biology to help keep us full and satisfied. And most people, they only appreciate fiber when they want a bowel movement. That's true, but that's only the beginning. Fiber is part of the architecture of our food, folks, whole plants. It creates a barrier that the digestive enzymes must work through to get to the calories. And soluble fiber actually holds water. It increases hydration and viscosity. Intact cell walls can slow down the release of sugar and starch, right? There's no cell wall when you eat these processed foods. Fiber carries polyphenols and other compounds into the intestine. And when certain fibers reach the colon, your gut microbes, they ferment them to produce short-chain fatty acids. Fibers also trap and carry waste out of your body. It helps to remove excess cholesterol and bad hormones that can otherwise be recycled and keep your metabolism in the dumps. And people who eat more whole food fiber, they actually lower the risk of several chronic diseases. But fiber added back to some engineered food, whether it's in your bar or in your supplement powder, it's not going to be the same because that's already destroyed the food matrix in the first place. You cannot take white flour, add isolated fiber, and then print high fiber on the box and assume you have the same food as the original whole grain. It just doesn't work like that. The food matrix, the structure of the food, is not just one ingredient. It's the entire original natural structure that was meant to be together to balance each other. And that's why when I eat whole beans, even though I mashed it up, it still helps people lose weight because the food structure is still intact. It can help reduce your blood sugars, lower insulin, reduce your insulin resistance, give you better lipids, and helps you to lose weight. But honestly, these stories, they're not unique to me or my friend. It's been happening around the world for eons until the modern food industry figured out how to hijack that. And then we had scientists, nutrition experts, design a game to get us all hooked. You can decide today not to play. You can choose whole foods like beans that can help reduce your sugars, reduce your weight, reduce your liver fat, reverse insulin resistance, and give you more energy, lift your brain fog, improve your blood lipids, balance your hormones, lower your inflammation, feed your gut microbiome, and reduce your risk of cancer and heart disease. Which, by the way, is number 1 and number 2 ways people kick the bucket. Now, I know beans sound like snake oil, but you don't have to go too far back in history to understand that people didn't used to kick the bucket from heart disease and cancers like they do now. They kick the bucket from infectious diseases. I think most of us forgot about that. Did you know that if you just replace 1 serving of your meat protein to a plant-based protein like beans, if you did that every day, you would reduce your risk of kicking the bucket by 12 to 24%, depending on what kind of animal meat you're replacing. Processed meats are like the worst. Personally, I swap that out first. Now, speaking of protein, 1 cup, this is a cup of beans, has 15 grams of protein. Literally 15 grams of protein in this jar. And I'm sure you and your friends are looking for protein to eat. And while you're looking for protein, I'm just looking for a real food. That's a big part of how I kick the habit. Did your grandmother ask your grandpa to go buy protein from the store? No. She asked him to go buy like eggs or a piece of steak or some beans, right? They don't send people to go looking for protein. Why are we using these semi-scientific words to describe food? Because it's not food, folks. Protein is not food. It's a nutrient. It makes no sense to me because if all you ate was protein, you wouldn't thrive. And how do I know that? Well, because that experiment was conducted around the world. At one point, the world thought protein was it. They shipped it everywhere. What did it do? Well, for starving people, it didn't do much. And they realized they were wasting their money. So they canned their project. But now, instead of giving it to starving countries and poor families, they're trying the same experiment on affluent Western countries and giving them their protein spiel, right? Go get more protein because you'll pay for that debunked experiment. They think somehow the fancy packaging will change the results. Good luck with that experiment. I'm not playing that game. I already know the outcome, and it's a big reason why you're not losing weight. So if you want to learn more about protein, watch the next video.